Good morning, folks. Sorry, a couple of minutes late this morning. Fergal was in a meeting at work there, and I was just sorting a couple of tech things. So thank you for joining us. Shanghai, God, we have people from Shanghai. Hi, Sharon, and I believe Alan and the crowd from Australia are on too. Good morning, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you are. I've lost track. You're all welcome to today's webinar, which is with Fergal Dempsey, who's the operations manager and an event controller as well with Connacht Rugby. So very happy that Fergal offered to do this session, as we can often find in our world of doing safety and planning for events that sometimes the operation side of the house, which has to deal with literally everything, so has a lot of commercial, a lot of that side going on as well. Sometimes there can be, you can find it hard to speak their language. They can find it hard to speak and understand our language on the safety and the event control side. So I think Fergal's role is interesting in that he does both. So on match days, 9 times out of 10, he will be the event controller for games for Connacht Rugby, which could have huge crowds, and there could be massive European, rugby occasions. And the rest of the time, then he's the operations manager for the club as a whole. So he's dealing with literally everything from a burst pipe and how well the grass is growing, through to issues around safety and security for the event. So we're delighted to have Fergal with us. I'll do some of the usual stuff. Apologies if you've heard it a million times. I keep being reminded that some people on a given day, on a given webinar, it's their first one with us. So I have to kind of run through everything again. So the first thing I always want to say is thank you to Actavo Events, Paul Griffin and the team in there who are working with us to deliver all these webinars. I think it's 24 now with the 2 live webinars, the live panel ones. So I think we've that many scheduled now. And people are asking, we may go on further. We're kind of waiting to see how COVID-19 is affecting the world and whether people are still in lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. And actually, now that I've mentioned that, I'm going to pop up a poll real quickly. We're looking beyond COVID-19 to see if and when we do start back to some sort of normality, but whether we'll keep these webinars going, obviously much less frequently, but we're trying to figure out when the best time would suit people. So I'm going to pop up a poll real quick. You should see it appear there just on top of your chat or under the chat, depending on whether you've minimized that window. So you might just give us an indication of when might suit you. A couple of quick things. Obviously, you've seen the chat window. Ask questions in there. Connor and I are here from our team. We'll flag things as questions and we'll keep track of them. So when we do the Q&A at the end with Fergal, that we'll have hopefully tracked the questions you guys want answered and we'll be able to address them. If anything comes up, if Fergal touches on something and a load of good chat happens and we feel we should jump in there and then and kind of discuss something, we can do that too. So don't be waiting till the end necessarily to get a question in. Pop it in there. It might be that a few people are asking something similar and it might make sense for me to jump in and bring it to Fergal during the presentation, and he's kind of comfortable doing that. So don't worry about doing that. Just get the question in when you want. You can, of course, with that lovely red tab, you can minimize that chat during the session, which means you won't be seeing the chat scrolling. The only other thing that means is you mightn't see as easily, you might not see the polls or you might not see files that we're giving you to download or whatever, but they all live in there. So if you pop it open again, you'll be able to get that stuff. A couple of other things to say. We will have the PDF of Fergal's presentation. It'll be available to download probably at the end when we go into the Q&A. And he's put together a little reading list of further reading in case you're really into this guest and fan experience thing. So there's another PDF there with just some reading on it. We found that on a lot of the webinars, people are really keen to get kind of a further reading, or if you're interested in this and you want to learn more kind of thing. So I know Ian did a really good one from his session last week, and a lot of people emailed me back thanking me for it and thanking Ian for it, I suppose, because they wanted to delve into things a bit further. We're conscious in an hour or two of a webinar, there's only so far you can dig into stuff, but if people are really into it, the presenters are trying to put together kind of a further reading list. I mentioned 2 live webinars, which we have scheduled. They're panel webinars, which means as opposed to what we're doing here today, which will be me disappearing, Fergal doing his presentation and kind of me reappearing, and then we do a Q&A. These panel webinars that we're doing, you'll be looking at 4 different heads on the screen for the entire time. Is it 4 for both? It is 4 for both, I think. And then we'll just be discussing questions that you guys have sent in, questions that come in on the day and stuff like that. So that's the plan. That's the difference between kind of a live panel versus these sessions. So we announced one last night, which has got about 400 people registered for it already, I think, which is specifically to do with COVID-19. I need to thank Alan Wilson, who's on here today, for suggesting that we do one specifically on COVID-19. He did it cleverly during a webinar, so everyone was able to jump on it and go, oh yeah, great idea. And then I did a poll and everyone said, yeah, great idea, let's do it. So we're doing one with, we've got Alan himself is going to come on that one. We've got Janet Sellery from Canada, and we've got Jim Digby, who's the head of the Event Safety Alliance in the States. So along with myself, we've got Ireland, Australia, Canada, and USA on that one. The only thing to bear in mind, and this has caught a couple of people out already, is that one is scheduled for 12 p.m. Eastern time in the States. So if you're UK and Ireland, I think that's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But we're conscious that we do have a lot of people in the States and Canada that are getting in touch and are making the effort to kind of tune into these. We wanted to do one that suited them better and their time. So with Janet and Jim being North American based, that one made sense. So just don't get caught out by that. The reminders and stuff from Webinar Jam from the software will give you the right time, I think. But just don't be thinking at 12 o'clock Irish or UK time. It's 12 o'clock Eastern time in the States. So I think that's 5 p.m. here. For poor Alan, it's like midnight or something. I think that's about the size of it. As usual, recording will be made available for this. It'll today or tomorrow, depending on when we get to it. And certs of attendance and stuff should go out as well. If anyone is having trouble with the certs, by the way, I've had 2 people get in touch just saying there was a bit of a glitch for them. Do get in touch. Do not be afraid to email us and say, look, that didn't work or that didn't happen. Just because these are free, don't be shy about emailing and going, look, I never got my cert. We can figure stuff like that out, even if it takes us a bit of time. It's an automated system. We upload a CSV and Excel file of all the names, but sometimes there can be glitches with these things. So do let us know if there are any issues that way. Don't be shy. I think we're good to go. Let me have a quick look at the notes and everything. I think we're all right. Put the questions in the chat. Trust that Connor and myself will track them as best we can, and we'll get them answered either in the middle if it makes sense or at the end. If you have any issues, if the feed freezes or anything, I've got full signal on our end. We do what we can on our end. But there's a reconnect button there that fixes it for people 99 times out of 100. So just hit that if things freeze up on you. You should be straight back to where you were. There's my daughter. I'm on daddy daycare, in case anyone is wondering. Charlie, do you want to wave? Want to say hello? No, she's not saying hello. But I am on daddy daycare, so if I disappear off screen urgently, it's probably to help Charlotte. Fergal, if you're there you are. I'm going to end this poll. Thank you for that. I kind of know where we're at with that now. And Fergal, you can take over and pop your slides up there whenever suits you. And if you see my head pop up as discussed, it's because someone's got a burning question and I want to annoy you with it. Otherwise, I might wait and see you at the end.
No matter. Thanks a million, Mark. Thank you, guys. And we should, Mark, you'll tell me if the slides have popped up there. Start. Hit the big green button, and that's how it works. Now, guys, welcome. Just having a look at everyone that's signed on or joined us this morning. That is excellent, and really happy to be speaking to people from across from Western Australia to Derry. I think that's quite the mix. So fair play to everyone. It's a beautifully sunny day here in Mayo, so I'm going to try and be as quick as I can and just try and not run through this, but definitely just slides speak for themselves, and there's a lot of information in here. As Mark said, there's a good opportunity at the end to ask any questions. But if you want something and you want to talk about something that comes up during the meeting or during this, please let me know, and please let Mark know, and we'll have a chat about it. Really excited to be here today. Thanks a million to Mark, Crowded Safe Events, and for putting this on. And I'm just going to kick it off, guys. Just a little about me, and I know there's a lot of event students here, so I just want to kind of give a flavour of what my journey has been like from a student right up to where I am now. And it's not relevant to everyone, but I think this just shows a journey of what can happen when you're working in the events world. I started off with UL Students' Union, that's the alma mater from myself and Mark, and was there working in small events for students, from setup crew to security. So I worked both ends of that job, and it was a really great experience to kind of test how events work and to drive that passion for me. I went from that setup crew to from security to actually putting on the events, and then liaising with local stakeholders it's amazing trying to put on an event that's worthwhile for students, but also one that doesn't cause too much angst for local residents. They're working in tandem with the Garda Síochána, which is our police service here, and the local authorities. So it was trying to get everything, make the best event possible for all your attendees, but then to have everyone else, all the other key external stakeholders happy so that you could do it again. I was lucky enough then to work for Thomond Park Stadium. That's a rugby-specific stadium here in Limerick in Ireland, 26,500 seater stadium. So that stadium was probably about 2-3 years old when I joined, just a part-time safety officer there. And it was amazing to work with that team and to see the effort and the level of, I suppose, understanding they had for the customers and for their fans. The first thing I learned about Thomond was that when they opened their door and their first night and they welcomed in fans for the first time, there was a load of issues, as you can expect. It was the first time trying out new systems, people were unfamiliar with the stadium, all of this. So they sat down and they had a lot of fan feedback after the event. And Thomond reached out to every one of those fans afterwards. And that kind of set the tone for what they wanted to do as an organisation and as a stadium. And that little piece of advice kind of stuck with me. It was one of the first things I learned when I started there, but it's stuck with me ever since. And I think it just shows the value of reaching out. You know, they contacted the fans. People took time out of their schedule to contact Thomond Park to let them know if they had a good or a bad experience at the venue. And then Thomond went back, told them that they've actioned their plans, they've actioned their feedback, and then we're able to put some stuff into practice. And that made it better for everyone. From Thomond then flew across to Canada and spent about 5 years over in Canada. Again, started working at the Whitecaps, which is the MLS Major League Soccer team in Canada, in Vancouver. Really great team, really great experience. Working in BC Place Stadium, which is a 55,000 seater stadium. And we, at Whitecaps matches, we had the attendance was about 21,000. So they were able to curtain off the upper tier and had a nice intimate feel for that stadium and that size then. And from here, again, kind of started at the bottom of the chain, as it were, and then worked my way up to become event manager. And we'll talk about some of the experience I've had at the Whitecaps later on in the presentation. But just really, really cool. It was a kind of young club. We had just turned professional into and had just joined Major League Soccer in 2011. I joined in 2012. And it was just really cool to be part of that, and an organisation that grows, that has such high standards for itself and what it expects itself to be, and then trying to manage that and to manage a team and to be proactive in that regard. And from there, I went on to the Canucks. This is the NHL team in Vancouver. Hockey is king in Canada. It's an amazing thing to work and to get to work in 4 major leagues in North America was an absolute honour. It wasn't as much event management here as more of, it was event management, but not in the sports realm. It was more gala events, golf events, and that type of thing, and then working with player liaisons, different audience to what we would have worked with any of the other jobs I was in, as they were more high net worth individuals, and that VIP level status was really good and a really good experience. So then as well, I done some part-time work with the inaugural Canada Sevens events that happened in Vancouver, and that was the first time having the Canada Sevens circuit actually stop off in Vancouver. And that event has now gone on to, it's had its 5th year this year, and it is absolutely skyrocketing. It was just happened before the lockdown occurred, and they're really delighted. It's a marquee fixture in the Vancouver calendar now, actually, and it's one that the players and the teams love to stop on when they're on the World Circuit. Got back to Ireland, worked for Tickets.ie. This is working for pretty much the GAA, as Tickets.ie were a particular partner for the GAA. I was able to just see the difference. There's a mad difference between Canada and Ireland in terms of our events and how we do things. It was really good to get an understanding of the ticketing side of things and see what kind of is involved in that. And then finally, I'm here at home in Mayo, here in the west of Ireland, back working with Connacht Rugby, which is amazing. I can't tell you how good it is to work for an organisation that is where you're from, a professional sports team that represents the people in your area, and that you have, a massive opportunity to work, and you're involved with it. It's such a great organisation, not just in terms of rugby, but in terms of what it does for clubs, for community, and all of that. And it's really good. It's a great place to work. We've obviously there's a lot of unknowns at the minute, but we've plans for a stadium that's been funded. 20 million euros funding has come in for that, so we're really happy with that. So we should be developing a new stadium here in the west of Ireland in the next couple of years, and that's something that's really exciting. It's really exciting to be part of that team, that journey. That was a big snapshot, guys. So I hope it just gives you a flavour, and I think it's important to know that experience can be garnered anywhere, and it's just important to try and get as much of it as you can, especially when you're young, and try and make yourself a bit better as you go on. Today we'll speak about fan experience. We'll go through three topics. So it's just understanding your event needs, and we'll look at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for that, and the value of front of house staff and volunteers. Spend a little time looking at that, and then just welcoming feedback from all corners. Some of the stuff, guys, I'm not an expert in any of it, to be fair. I've just seen what works. I'm a student of this as much as you guys are. I always like to learn. I'm hungry for knowledge. I just thank you all for joining us to try and increase your knowledge of this subject. And I hope that you find some of the themes today useful, and that you might be able to even action some of these things out of this. I suppose why I hold the fan and guest experience very important to myself and to my team at Connacht is that we control everything that happens off the pitch. So we can't control the results on the pitch. If our team goes out to lose a match and fans are disappointed, we share their disappointment. It's not something we can do. No one goes out to lose a match, but sometimes it happens. What we can control is everything that happens outside of that. We can control the interactions that fans have at the gate as they enter with their tickets being checked. When they're at queuing for a concession, if they're getting some food and beverage, the quality of their food and beverage, the entertainment that's laid on. We have control over all of those aspects of what we do. So it's important that we concentrate on them and work on them to making them the best possible experience. Fans always come back to matches, and they'll always come back to events, but it's just important that their time and their money is always, it's valuable to them. So ensure that they're getting the most value from it, from coming to events that we put on. And why it's so important for us to Connacht is that we've only got 13 home matches over the course of the season. Now, I know a lot of you guys, you don't work in sports, so having even 13 events over a season is, that's a lot. But I can just tell you that, if you were putting on an event today and it works well, you'd want people to come back to it whenever the next time you run that incarnation is. So be it next year, next week, you want people to come back, and you want that event to be better than it was the first time you put it on. So we have 13 opportunities, as I see them, over the time of the year, over a season, to put on the best possible event that Connacht Rugby can put on, and that's what we do. And that's a mantra that stuck with me throughout the jobs that we've done. And it's really important just to concentrate on that, to know that it's a temporary thing that you're doing, and that people are coming in to get value from. I suppose we're in a market. We compete with cinemas, we compete with restaurants, we compete with pubs. People have only a few euros to spend for their downtime, and we want to ensure that the downtime they spend with us is stuff that they enjoy it and they want to come back and experience it again. Maybe they tell some friends about it at work the next day, and they come back and they bring their friends with them. That's why it's important to us. Starting off with just Spurs Stadium, and this thing is a behemoth. It is probably the first North American stadium I've seen outside of Europe, or inside of Europe. Apologies, guys. It's unbelievable. It's an amazing structure. It's not without its faults. Obviously, a long time being built. It was delayed in opening and all the rest of it, and a massive price tag. I don't expect any of us to work in a venue, or maybe we do, but I don't expect any of us starting out to be working in venues that cost £1 billion to put together, and that is capable of holding 63,000 people. But I do think we can take some lessons from this stadium, from this build, and from the ethos that Spurs had to create a really good events for our fans. And this is just a picture of the South Stand there, and we'll come to that in a minute. The stadium itself, just to speak a bit about it, as we said, it's the first NFL-specific stadium outside of the USA. I love American football. I think it's an amazing sport. I really got into it when I was in Vancouver. I picked the Browns as my team for some unknown reason. I brought further misery on myself. This team is not successful, but I just love them for what they are. Inside in the Spurs Stadium, there's two amazing playing surfaces. The soccer-specific stadium and soccer-specific surface actually splits in three. It lowers down and then it retracts in under the South Stand, so the NFL field is available and can be played on. They've created it in such a way that the sight lines for fans sitting in the stands are perfect for both soccer and for American football. Apologies for using the word soccer. I know for any of our friends in the UK will be killing me, but just it's a bad habit I picked up in Canada. You should see this, guys. It's amazing to have two very distinct sports being played in one venue, and yet everything is perfect for both. And And on that, it's an adaptive stadium, and it's not just on the field of play that it's adaptive. I think one of the main takeaways we took from the stadium when we were there was that it was their press room. Instead of creating a press room for media, for match nights that they might use maybe 20 times a year, they first created a cafe. And in that cafe, that's something that's open throughout the season. Fans can come in, and anyone in the local area can come in and enjoy a cup of coffee or get their sandwiches there in that cafe. Now that doubles up as a press room on match nights. So that was the first time I'd seen something like that happen. Press room in the stadium was always kind of a dead space nearly, because it's kind of catered for the press. It's rows of laptops, rows of desks, and good connectivity. But Spurs saw that people are just coming in with their laptops into a venue, and so they just knew that it didn't have to be what it always is. And that's the kind of adaptive mindset that they brought with them to a lot of other things within the stadium. And I know it's a small detail, but concentrating on that media room might bring some of it back to you and think of, do you need to do something the way it's always been done, or can you do something better? We had a look at it in the previous slide, guys. That is the largest single-tier stand in the UK. So that's the South Stand. Spurs, they took their inspiration from Borussia Dortmund, from the yellow wall there, which is an amazing thing. When you see that going live on a Champions League match or a Bundesliga match, you can just see the atmosphere and everything that's built within that. And Spurs wanted to keep that atmosphere in this ginormous stadium. So they put in 17,500 seats within the single tier South Stand, and it's really come to life. Now, you know yourselves, getting any amount of people into the stadium can be tricky, but getting 17,500 into one area can be very difficult. So Spurs were ingenious, I think, in how they went about creating an environment that fans want to get to, want to have a good time in, and then that also had knock-on effects for stadium and stadium operations. Underneath the South Stand tier, this is the goal line bar, and this is the longest bar in UK. Allegedly, it goes the full length of the South Stand, and so there's never an issue trying to get in there and getting your drinks and all that. It's very quick service. They have the glasses that fill from the bottom up, and it's all tap terminals. You can see the amount of terminals they have there peppered across the bar. They also have some great food options in there. You'll see the N17 grill, lots of other flavors that are key to the demographic of fans that come into the building. They ask their fans what they like to eat, and they put those concession stands within the area. You can see here then on the bottom right photo, that's a look at the marketplace. This whole area is called the marketplace. That's a look at it. You can see the large floor space, nice and clean. There's very few bins or anything else clogging up any major flows in the environment. You also see here on the left hand side, that's some seated terracing, so fans can relax there before a match. All really small details, but really key details in accommodating the large crowds that they have in that space. What makes it different from probably other stadiums and other areas is that they've gone out of their way to give their fans what they want. Fans right now, everyone is on about craft beer. Spurs put in this brewery into their stadium that creates their own craft beer from. It's called Beavertown Brewery, and it's amazing. Like the drinks they have, the pints they serve on site, all available from there. That's in combination with the other, our main brands and partners. But Spurs have really gone out of their way to cater for fans' taste. I think that's really important to do. When you look at what you do at your venue, is that something that, in Connacht, I know we bring in Hansen Burger, and they're something that our fans in Galway love to have. Hansen Burger is probably the burger joint in the city, and so we have them on site for our matches, and we're delivering a quality product there to our fans, that they may not get at other events. Spurs have competitive pricing. There's dynamic pricing in the venue, and so for the first hour after gates opening, there's specials on that increases and entices fans to come into the building, and that just again, by getting people in, you're saving yourself in the long run in terms of queuing and bottlenecks that may occur at the outside. Entertainment, there's entertainment there pre and post match, and again, it just offers fans that why would you want to come in early? Well, three things there: quality products, competitively priced, and there's entertainment inside. Where else would you want to be? And then finally, I suppose, guys, what we looked at was they've adjusted their opening hours. So the whole venue opens 2.5 hours before kickoff. In some of the premium areas, it's a bit earlier. But then there's actually phase closing in the building. So instead of getting everyone out as quickly as they can, there's phase closing of bars and restaurants, so people can sit there and relax. And again, there's not that mad egress at the end of the event. There's small details. These might be things that you're putting in place already. but they're just really good points. And when you see them mapped out like that at a stadium of that size, it just reinforces the impact for me, I think. I've given this its own slide because I think it's that important to Spurs, to kind of their ethos again. The layout of that marketplace, that area that we just looked at in the previous slides, that was changed directly after the first event when they realised that the flow of the space didn't work as they wanted it to do. Spurs had already spent £1 billion on the stadium. They already spent months behind schedule, but they knew and they saw that they had to make a change. So that's what they went out there and done. And I think that is so important to us as event professionals to acknowledge when maybe not everything in the plan works as it should, but we know to make our experience better for fans, we can go and change something and do something that will allow them to have a better enjoyment at the event next time. I've given it its own slide, guys, because I think adaptability and agility to change and welcoming change is so important, and it's a message that hopefully you'll see throughout this, but something that we should all be aware of as we go about our jobs. Just two different things here, I suppose. Stadium perspective. Look, at stadium have gotten real value from this. They're delighted to have fans coming in and joining matches. Fans are coming in earlier, which has a massive impact on safety and security of the fans. And there's no queues to get into the ground, certainly, but fans are already within the ground, and it's so easier to manage crowds and to facilitate crowds when they're in a controlled space that you have complete control over, rather than outside your ground. So by having really good and not cheap, but competitively priced offerings inside, fans want to come in early, they're attracted to be there, and they're just meters from their seat, which allows for safe and controlled ingress into the stand. 17,500 people is not a small number, but having them all coming in, being in the ground early, increases the safety and flow of people. And I think you look at your fans, and Spurs are really good at sharing with us how good it's been for their fans. Fans are coming in way earlier than they ever expected to be. They're busy, they're rammed in those bars, rammed being busy, not crowded, from well after gates open. And that's incredible. They have created something, they thought it would work, and it has, and it's really, really good to see it. One other small detail is there's an option, and this is again, it's different when it's your own stadium, but there's an option for fans to increase at every match, or upgrade, sorry. So an option for a fan to upgrade their ticket. If they didn't want to sit in the south stand that match, they can go sit in the on the halfway line, or they can go sit in some of the premium areas. And again, it's just an option for fans to do something a little bit different that they may not ever get to do. Spurs are really thought about the fan throughout the whole journey. So as I said, this is a £1 billion stadium. I mean, it's very hard to bring anything from it. I mean, we don't share the budgets the Spurs do, but I think there are some things that we can bring back to our own events that might make it beneficial for ourselves and for our fans. Creative use of space. I think you look at the marketplace bar and you see what they've done there as creating a hangout space, creating a space where people can come and meet their friends and all that. Is that something that may be available at your venue? Can you think of some space that isn't being utilised that well, that may lend itself really well to fans congregating before an event takes place? They've looking at extra revenue streams. As I said, we spoke about there earlier. But Hanson Burger, is there anyone in your event, where you're putting on your event in that locality? What are the main draws? What are the main restaurants? Do they do takeout? Do they do food carts, food trucks? Is that something that you can bring in? And just matching yourself with the flavors of where you are. And I think people like to support local when they can. So I think it's really important to work with people in that regard. I think there always has to be equality. I think we've moved so far away from stadium food being soggy burger buns and soggy chips. It's so much better now. We need to ensure that we're at that level for fans. Reviewing gate times, it's a small one, and again, it might be something you can do. But if you had your gates open earlier, attracting more people in because you have quality products available, will that lessen the impact and the load that are on security and front-facing stewards as fans come into the ground? And then just finally, guys, be adaptive. I think it's really important. We gave it that full slide, but it's really important to just respond to change, respond to something that doesn't work, and then maybe make it better for yourselves and for your fans. I won't read this out, and this is the most words I'll have on any slide ever, but this is just a short piece from the Council of Europe Convention on Safety, Security and Service for sports events. And it just shows the relationship that is there between fan experience and the service that fans feel they're getting, and their I suppose, willingness to accept safety and security guidelines. And it's really important that, that match is seen, that you see that there's a really key relationship between that. Yes, it's really good to provide a positive experience for fans. Yes, we want them to come back next week. But also, at the end of the day, we want to provide a safe and secure location for fans. And by increasing the fan experience, by having a good fan service, by having really good people in positions, we are able to do that as event managers. And so I think that's really key. And this course is excellent, guys. I done it there at the start of the lockdown, and I'd recommend that. We sent the link out. It's in the further reading. If you get an opportunity, it's well worth doing. It is specific to sports events, but if you work in other areas, there are some good options there. I think any education is good education in my mind. Spoke about them a little there. Mark, you can jump in if there's questions coming up. I'll race through that, but if there's not, I'll keep powering on here. What we'll look at is the value of front of house staff and volunteers, and you kind of touched on it there. It's just about having good people in good positions. This is obviously a stock image, but I mean, you look at these people in the photo, and I know that cup of coffee is going to be delicious. They're smiling, they're happy to serve us, and it's. I want to be able to go into that restaurant and sit down with them and enjoy that cup of coffee. That's their livelihood, though. Where we work is in events, and we work with stewards, with volunteers, staff, food and beverage concession people that maybe are sometimes just temporary staff. Before we get into it, Mark, have you some questions?
No, I was just going to say there's some chat going on here, and there's people sending me messages that are sending them in privately and stuff. People are fascinated that Spurs spent $1 billion, designed the thing up the yin yang, thought it was beautiful, immediately spotted the problem and went and changed it. Do you know what was
I think it was just
and how they fixed it?
And I don't know the exact details, so I don't go into a big thing. But it was in that marketplace area where there was some issues with the flow of the stadium. So where people were probably congregating in an area that may or may not have been suitable for that. So it was a structural change. So it could have been something that was remedied with a security personnel or something like that. But yet they saw that probably in the long run it's best for them and best for our fans able to put something in place that combats the need for that security there. I don't know the exact details of what it was, Mark, but I know it was an area within the marketplace. And if it were different, if it was my stadium, I'd be able to tell you exactly what.
No, 100%.
Kind of mislead on that.
No, I get you. I'm just thinking it's fascinating that at $1 billion, I would safely say, and I'm guessing, but it'll be an educated guess. I'm pretty sure they will have had people involved who know crowds and stuff in the design and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what it does is it speaks to, because we talk about design, information, and management all the time, and the likes of me on our side of the table are always saying, involve us really early in a process and let us input all the way through. But at the same time, sometimes the best laid plans or something you've seen work 40 other times will not work when you see it in practice, and you do need to go back and change it. Yeah. And there's a thing there in our world as well about not being too proud when you see it doesn't work. Not saying, oh, I worked really hard on that plan. Just go fix it. And we've all done that in smaller ways. I'm sure you've done it in smaller ways at Connacht when you think something will work. And when you see it doesn't, you just tweak it. So to be doing that on a £1 billion project is just fascinating.
And that's why I included it, because it was such a big takeaway for us. And I completely agree with what you're saying. Sometimes pride comes into us. We're, as event managers, we have so much ownership over our events. And, I would have, anytime you put something on, it's your work and it's your ideas and thoughts that gone into it. And your pride can take a beating sometimes if something doesn't work. But it's understanding that being able to make a change and make it better for the next time, you can be happier that it's gotten better.
Yeah. I think the long-term results will obviously be better than. Ryan has made a good point in the chat there. People will always find ways to use your spaces in ways you haven't thought of.
And that's it,
That's true. We've all seen that picture and versions of it where there's a beautiful concrete path and a path cut through the grass because it's like 6 seconds faster, Yeah. And the other question that had popped up, and I think Katie has posted a link in there, is that course that you were talking about, the Council of Europe one. Can I just say, in case I forget to go back to this in the Q&A, that I would echo what Fergal had said about that. You'll probably know a lot of the stuff in it, but it's really well presented. It's really well done. And look, we're all doing loads of things during this kind of lockdown. I have to say, for lots of different reasons, it's one of the courses, and it was only like half a day. It's not that long, but I actually got a lot out of it and really enjoyed it. It's very slick. It presents stuff very well, and you'll definitely take stuff away from it. I'll broadcast the link there. Katie has put it in. It is free, very good. And again, I'm interested that even the likes of you doing what you do all day, every day, will have gotten something out of that, which I think is really good.
Definitely. And like some of these things, you know yourself, it's just, it reinforces what you already know. That can be as good as anything else, you know. But I really would recommend it. And I think across, I know that, like, I'm speaking very much sports guys, and that's just where I come from, and that's my background. But I think events are events, you know, and people, we all deal with people coming in, generate sometimes the stadium, sometimes the temporary venues. But there's a lot of learnings and a lot of information that we both have and we all have that can be worked across everything that we do. So that's it.
Yeah. Sorry, someone's just sending me a message there telling me there's feedback when I was talking. That is my 3-year-old playing a little music box thing that she decided to do exactly when I decided to talk to you. So there you go. I'm going to disappear again. You carry on and we'll pop back at the end again for questions. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mary. And guys, thanks a million for all the questions, and I really appreciate it. It's great. It's great to get the feedback, and it's great to kind of chat about some of those things. And I it's mad, but they have to change things, and I think that's something that, you know, always be aware of it. We'll chat about staff and volunteers now, and just their importance. Guys, they are the ambassadors for your event, and they're the front face, and they will deal with fans more than you will in the control room, more than anyone else in the venue. And I think, you know, some of the key, I've just listed out some of our key staff here. Apologies to anyone working in event security. I just used the one cartoon that I could find in the for what security looked like. This is a cross section of the teams that we have at Connacht, and we've worked with at other events. So, you know, we can break it down into security or generally professional, paid. We're always paid professionals whose job it is to maintain the security of the venue and the safety of all fans. Then in Connacht, it's event stewards, but this can be any event volunteer that you have, and these people are there to assist fans and address their needs. And these guys, I cannot tell you how important volunteers are to events. I think everyone here will know that. They're the eyes and ears of events, but also other people who give up their time to help you put on a show. And it's just so important that you recognise them, you recognise their efforts, and you give them the best possible environment to work in. And then, you know, there's at the end of it, then there's F&B staff, so bar staff, concessionaires, and all the rest of it. Those people are there. They're working generally for someone else, probably not for you, and not generally under your remit. But I suppose as an event manager, you're always there, and you're always a person who's answerable really to everyone else for staff that's at the venue. What I said here is the same goal for multiple roles. So all these people, they're completely different kind of backgrounds, remits. You know, some are professionals, some are volunteers, but they're all coming in and they're representing you at your event. So you have to make sure that they are being the best representatives and best ambassadors of your event that they can have. And it's not easy to do. Sometimes they're only there for like 4 or 5 hours more than fans themselves. So how do you ensure that all the people on the front lines and the front of house staff that you have are given the best account of your event and the best account of your organization? And the simple way to do that, guys, is having a guest charter. So this is just, you know, it's something that, you know, fans can expect to see at the ground when they come in. It's you know, it's what we share among staff. Actually, I'm speaking out of turn here. We don't have this icon, but this is something that we would love to have in the future. It's just to have a set of guidelines written down, a working agreement, if it were, and for people to live up to as they are going about their duties at your event. And it's something simple, but it's really, really good. It'll just, you know, ask people how they like to be treated and ask them to treat others like that. And I think everyone, fans and event attendees coming into events, a lot of time it'll be the first time there. And so we encourage people to reach out. And so, you know, one of these things would be, if you see someone looking around them, you know the face, looking up for directions, looking for signage, you go over and you approach them, you ask them how can you help. Little things like that, and encouraging people to ask those questions really makes it beneficial for fans, and they appreciate being asked. When you're creating a guest charter, guys, I would really recommend this part. It's just giving ownership of the charter to the front of house staff and volunteers. So I think it's really important that the people that are implementing a plan are the ones who have a say in how it's created. And giving that ownership and giving that responsibility to them allows them to, you know, create something that they know is workable, but also there's something that they feel a part of, they have a part of. Ownership is a big thing, and something I always speak about, that it's, you know, if someone has ownership of an idea or of a platform, they'll go ahead and they'll want to implement it more. When you get it all together, create a document, you know, ensure it's working for all stakeholders. And then what I would like to do is publicize it, share it, socialize it with your fans, let them know what to expect at a venue, let them know what to expect at an event. These are the standards that we're setting ourselves. We want to ensure that we live up to these standards and challenge them to ask them, have we met those standards as they go on? I'll probably just chat a little bit here about the Vancouver Southsiders and the Vancouver Supporters Clubs that we had at the at Vancouver Whitecaps. So these guys are an amazingly passionate fan base, and the Whitecaps is blessed with like amazing fans. They take over one end of the stadium and they shout, cheer, chant, stand for full 90 minutes of a football match. And they're incredible, right? But these guys, you know, the Whitecaps have just moved to BC Place Stadium, and BC Place had never experienced fan culture like this before. So there was a bit of an misunderstanding of how the fans like to participate in supporting the team and how security would police that. So, you know, this led to, like, friction is too strong a word, but certainly tension between the supporters and probably the stadium, and trying to kind of manage that. So what we done is, you know, as us as attendants of the stadium, we got the fan groups to come in and sit down with the people that were head of security and head of fan experience at BC Place Stadium. And by getting everyone in around the table, by everyone learning each other's names, and by learning why the stadium does things the way it does and why the fans want to do things the way they do, there was this massive understanding and great learnings came from it. And really, we saw a massive increase in the in fan experience. The level of issues that supporters had with security, it reduced greatly. One of the key things we done was, you know, this is a big area, but a lot of these people are season ticket holders, so it's the same security and stewards are put on the entrances and at the vomitories there, and so that allowed fans to get to know those security people, knew them by name, and then even sometimes security would participate in the celebrations and all the rest. But why that's important is that, you know, getting the fans in, they had frustrations, they felt like they weren't being allowed to do what they wanted to do, but, you know, the stadium probably didn't understand how to police that and work with that. But getting them all in, sitting around the table and having that dialogue, it meant that it was a much better scenario, a much better place for security people to work in as well. Actions for you guys, I suppose, look at build a guest-focused culture, and I take this with everything. You need to start it from the top. The standard you walk past is the standard you set. That's a quote from Ben Ryan's book in 7-7. It's a rugby book about a Fiji Sevens team, and it's an excellent book, and it's really just an enjoyable book anyways. But I took this line from it and I absolutely love it. If you're head of the event, you might think that you don't have any interactions with fans or because you're in the control room, but like, it's amazing how much your movements and you're looked up to by everyone at the venue. You know, if you're seeing litter on the ground, you pick it up. These are small things with guys that mean the world of difference. You're setting that example to people. If you see someone who's looking for directions, go and interact with them. If you see fans and you're making eye contact, smile at them. Just welcome people in and create that sense of a culture of a welcoming environment from yourself, okay? Reward those that go above and beyond. I think this is something that we're always very quick to jump on people if they haven't done something right. But acknowledging someone who's done something well, who's created a better environment, is always worth shouting about. You know, we have it up where fans have reached out to us and said thanks a million. You know, we had disabled fans at a venue once, and they just said they were having difficulty coming in, and they were about to leave, only to meet a steward and who looked after them and gave them a really good experience at the venue. And like, me reading that email on a Monday morning is fantastic. It just shows you the level that our people are willing to go to and how much it's appreciated by the fans coming into the venue. So you always look out to reward those and to celebrate those who've done the job well. Clear lines of communication. I can't state this enough. Outside of the fan charter, you really want to be looking at just very clear, concise lines for people understanding what's happening at a venue. As we spoke about, I suppose we're sitting in the control room and we're putting plans together for a stadium for probably, you know, a couple of thousand people, even more. But it's the people on the front lines that are putting in place our ideas and our thoughts. So it's important that they know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. And clear lines of communication means coming up the way as well. if there's an issue on the front of the house, there should be a good hierarchy in place there where people know to contact someone who has answers for questions that fans may have. And finally, this ties in with the first point, but be accountable, guys. Live up to the charter that you create, live up to the standards that you want to set, and be that person. I won't go into the maybe going back to it. 13 was the amount of home matches we have per season. If we can create, I don't expect us to have 13 perfect games. I don't expect us to win 13 matches. But if we can create an amazing experience for people 12 times, I'm over the moon. And I just, being accountable and taking it on board and being the person to push that agenda, to push that culture, will have a real positive impact on those around you. Before, Mark, is there anything you want to jump in with there? Are you happy enough?
I was busy scribbling down that quote.
It's amazing.
I love that quote. Yeah, and I think Ryan is after adding in the link to buy that book. So
yeah, honestly, if you're not involved, it's just how Fiji is. It's such a great book to realise how things work in different areas and how much winning the gold meant for them at the Olympics. Having worked with the Fijian team at the Vancouver Sevens, they're amazing guys and they love rugby. So it was great.
It's funny because we've had your session scheduled for since it was one of the earliest scheduled, and I should have been thinking along these lines, and I didn't until right now. But I've been reminded of an experience. Sorry, I was hearing that feedback, and I'm trying to figure out if there's any way I can fix it. I've been reminded of possibly what might have been my first introduction to kind of guest experience, fan experience, and how important it was. I was working in a safety and security role at Oxygen Festival, which you'll remember, and a lot of people in Ireland will be familiar with, a huge festival that used to happen in Ireland back in the day. And I was working in a safety and security role, and we were late opening gates. And this was a greenfield site festival, so a lot of buses had arrived. There was hundreds and hundreds of people in a queue, and we were delayed with something quite critical, so we couldn't open yet. And I was with my boss in the car, and Cookie, one of the main safety officer at the time, I think, asked to meet a good few of us just up at kind of that entrance area where people would crest the hill and head down to go through ticket check and everything. And Cookie decided that what he needed there was a God mic hidden in a bush. So there was a mic that was wired into it. Was a full site system. We later discovered. We thought it was just for that entrance area, but it was a full site system. So Cookie decided that what he needed was someone just to jump on that mic, start talking, interacting with the crowd, just kind of, as you were saying, just keep good spirits and keep people enjoying. Like the weather was okay, which really helped. So he made, we need someone to do this, and everyone was kind of looking around at everyone. And I looked at my boss, Dermot Smith at the time with Sword Security, and I just said, Dermot, I'll do that if you want. I don't mind, unless you want me somewhere else. And he goes, no, jump in there on that for Cookie, and I'll cover you, and I'll move you later. So I jumped onto that. I jumped onto that microphone, and needless to say, I spent the rest of that entire Oxygen and the next Oxygen festival the following year on that microphone, full site coverage. I got dubbed Oxygen Microphone Man. People created Facebook pages and all sorts.
You went viral before people went viral, America. I remember.
I did go kind of viral before people went viral, but it was an interactive thing. It was a fun thing. It was, it was appeasing people who were in a situation. They're really looking forward to this festival. They just want to get in. They were in a big queue, and we were clearly late. And it was about, what I thought was great about that was Cookie recognized it, and he just thought really quickly, look, how can we can't fix the problem inside. It's taken however long it takes. But what can we do? What can we do to try and, Oliver says I'd pay money to see a video of that. There are a few videos, Oliver, play nice, and I might direct you towards them. But look at it from my point of view. I got to spend 2 years working Oxygen, having some of the best fun of my life, genuinely, with that microphone, talking to people, having fun with people. I was getting texts from friends of mine who were in camping sites that were the far side of the festival going, shut up. I do not need to be waking up to hearing your voice every morning. But it was great fun. And it was that exact thing. It was about Cookie, as one of the senior people running the festival, was worried that the customer's first experience was going to be a negative one. Now, we couldn't fix it immediately, but we could kind of make it a nicer experience for them while we remedied the issue and got them in the gate. I don't even remember what the problem was, to be honest. But just jumping on the microphone and talking to them did an awful lot.
And you said it there, like, I mean, they were lucky to have someone like you who was able to step in, who knew, like Cookie spotted it, Dermot spotted it, who knew the importance of interacting with the fans and allaying fears, because, you know, we see it, unfortunately, a lot, where something like that can go the other way. It can go from a positive experience to a negative experience very quickly. But having the people there who were able to identify it and, you know, having that ownership of the task, you guys took it on board and you made it a much better experience. And that's what, you know, that's a great message to get from this.
And what was actually interesting for me at the time was even the way Cookie articulated it. It wasn't from, and he was the safety officer, but it wasn't from a safety and security perspective. It wasn't from the point of view of let's stop them rioting at the gate kind of thing. It was really the experience side. Now, obviously, that knock-on effect was there, but that Cookie's first thing was, look, we need to just keep them happy, keep them smiling. Someone get on a mic and start having crack with them. We'll get the stuff inside fixed as quick as we can. And that's what impressed me at the time. Was it wasn't from a pure safety and security point of view. It was an experience thing. And then look, what we had then was on that first day and that after that first festival was, as those people were leaving at the end of the festival, so the ones that I would have interacted with at the very start, who had to listen to me for a good half hour or whatever it was, who we really got to talk to, they were all coming up, they were all having the crack on the way out and all that, which means from start to finish, you had kind of top and tailed their experience to make sure they came in with a smile on their faces and they left with a smile on their faces. And I think, having been to games and stuff in Connacht and having been to a lot of stadiums, a lot of matches, a lot of concerts, I think, now maybe we're more clued into it because we work in events, that's possible. But I think you can feel and you can sense at a venue or at an event when there is that kind of importance placed on that type of thing. I think you can see that staff have leeway. The likes of those disabled customers who you were saying met one steward who really hooked them up, and that made all the difference. Like that, you said it, that has to come from top down. Because if the boss is telling people this is what's important to us, look after people, the steward that changed that experience for that disabled visitor, I'm guessing may well have had other stuff to do, might have been tasked with something, spotted this problem and had the leeway and was able to go, I can fix this for this person, I can impact here. And that's important, that your volunteers in your front line have the freedom to do stuff like that. And I do know it's not always the case in every organization that they can.
Yeah, but like, you know, we're lucky. I can only speak to our own in that regard, but I agree. Like, you know, it is about creating a culture, and like, you have to. I mean, you're proud hearing those things when people say, you know, when you get that email back in on the Monday morning, and just someone is so grateful for that support. I think, you know, it starts at the top, but that starts in recruitment and getting the people that are right for you and right for your organization. Everyone, and you know, we can have as many people as we want working in events. Having the right people who hold the same values as you and to live up to what the standards you expect and you set, they're the people you want to be part of your organization.
No, 100%. And again, as you say, it comes down to recruitment. Bodies aren't just bodies. You need the right people.
No.
Jill has a good question there. How do you try to influence the behavior of fans during the match? Do you actively encourage them to support in a certain way? Or do you just, kind of like with the Whitecaps, do you see how they do it and then try and adapt to allow it to facilitate it as long as it's safe and whatever? I'm
a traditionalist, I have to say. It's all about the fans, and like, we're lucky. I think the atmosphere at the sports ground, guys, and if I won't invite all you as my guests, but certainly if anyone wants to come down to Galway and see a match, you're more than welcome. But it's an incredible experience, and people there, the people love their rugby. We love our rugby here in Connacht, and we're great supporters. Just like in Vancouver, so the supporters actually prefer being the ones supporting, and it's amazing the feedback we got there when there was kind of piped goal music or anything like that. Fans didn't like it at all. They wanted to have their voices being heard and them being the ones to support the team. I remember we had lots of stuff, and I won't get into bad details, but definitely there was some stuff that we thought was working, and from fan feedback we learned it wasn't, and we were able to change it. And again, that just makes it better for fans and their experience better. So like, it's not to skip it, but it is, you know, before a match we provide some, you know, just some music, some TV spots. Half time, there's definitely kind of moved away from the activations on the pitch. Just weather generally has a mad impact on it, and we're not blessed with weather in Galway. But just in terms of like letting the fans do their thing, it's an amazing experience for fans to just when you're on the pitch level after a win, and the fields of Athenry is blasting out from Clan Terrace. It's been a great event. People are happy. You know you've done a good job, and that's right. We'll leave it to them. We'll leave it to them.
You still get that feeling that I talk about all the time, and I say, and I mean this. I don't see it ever happening, but I say this all the time. The day I look out on a crowd at an event I've been involved in, and I don't get at least that one moment of fuzzy feeling inside.
Yeah.
If I'm involved in an event and I don't get that, and it could be, you know how it is. It could be stressful. It could have been really hard work. It could have been bang, 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 things going wrong all over the place. I still need to have that moment where I look out on a happy crowd, whether it's 200 or 200,000, and just go, right, we've done well here, and we've made an awful lot of people happy. That's what keeps me going. I think I could have one of those, one short one every gig we do, and it'll be enough to keep me going and happy, you know.
And it's like that. It might be you see a staff member doing something really well, you see a team member doing something really well. For me, my buzz is actually just about an hour before gates open when you're doing your walk through the venue and it's completely empty, bar like your staff that are setting up, and it's knowing that you and your team around you. So this isn't just on me, but it's all people have created something that 9,000 people or 10,000 are going to come in and enjoy in the next 3 or 4 hours, and you create this environment for that to take place in. And I love that feeling. I love being in empty stadiums, and I love it just before show that you have that opportunity just to kind of take a breath, breathe it in, and then just let it go, because it's going to be mental. The next 4 or 5 hours of your life are gone, but they're gone to a good thing. You know, it's class.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I do love that moment right before you go for doors on a show.
Yeah.
That time where you're kind of thinking, I think we're ready. I think we've done everything. We've done all our checklists.
Yeah.
Okay, let them in. And you'll learn very quickly if you haven't got everything. Lisa has a question here. What are your thoughts on giving out free items as part of fan giveaways? Now, I don't know what angle she's coming from with that, but that's the question.
It was Lisa or Aoife? Sorry.
Lisa, yeah.
Lisa, sorry. Lisa, yeah, I think it's great. I think there are some ones that you can do that are valuable, and I think there are some that are really not. I think as we look ahead, I'm really, values handing someone to something that they may not use again. For me, is kind of it's a tough one to justify. We're going to try and be as sustainable as we can in what we do. But I think handing out flags, I mean, especially I suppose rugby, it's kind of synonymous with handing out flags to people and having them waving in the stands as tries are scored and teams run out. I think you see it when you see it on a kid's room wall or something like that, and the kids are flying their flags at a later date. You know that they got it at a Connacht match, and so you know that they had such a good experience that they're still using that flag to represent what they had. I remember when I was down in Limerick, that was the first time I'd seen them Munster flags come out that everyone had at Thomond Park, and like it took me a couple of months to get my own one, but I was delighted when I finally got it, when I got to the game and got to have that flag come back, because it was kind of no more than people and their tickets. It was something that, it was a treasure, it was a souvenir from that event that I was able to keep and have at my house, and it was something, it was cool like that. I think there's value in it, Lisa, but I think you have to do it right, and I think it needs to be something that, I don't like the idea of just throwing something out that's game specific and then just be done after that. But at the same time, if you can create something that's souvenir, it's a key memento, and it's valuable to your fans and valuable probably to your partner, to the partner that's provided the item, then go for it.
Yeah, I think there can be, and again, the flags is an obvious one because it's a real rugby one and it works.
Yeah.
It for lots of reasons, whether it's sustainability or just the labour involved in cleaning it all up. And all, from an ops perspective, as you'd be well familiar with, there's so much to it. As you said, it needs to be the right thing. And it needs to hold kind of ongoing value, probably beyond that one day.
Yeah.
And I guess we've been at matches where, and involved in events where you get like commercial people looking around going, I've literally heard it's like, there's way more flags here than we give out for this game. And you're like, but that's exactly the point. Because people are bringing one they got 7 games ago or 3 games ago.
Yeah.
That type of lives on.
Yeah.
And it's a great example because the flags work so well.
I have an infamous one just on that, and I just share it really quickly. When it doesn't work, the Whitecaps was before I joined them, so I can tell the story of these, knowing that I didn't have any issues with this. But there was they started off in a new stadium. It was an outdoor stadium. BC Place is an indoor one. And anyone here knows Vancouver. It rains as much as it does in Ireland, but they actually get a summer, which is the balance they have. It doesn't stop raining here. For their first home match in Empire Field, it was called, they handed out 22,000 ponchos, and they left them in their plastic bag in the seat. So it was ponchos throughout the stadium. And then it was a beautiful day. It didn't rain at all. So the ponchos weren't needed or required. And then the Whitecaps scored their first goal, and 15,000 ponchos rained down on the field of play. And that meant everyone, there was a delay in match because the ponchos had to be cleaned up. So look, it's many years ago. It's it happened. It happens. But just be careful in that regard. So I'm always conscious of that now in terms of when we're giving something out. Is it throwable? Is it? It's not going out.
But that's a great example of how experience stays with us and follows us for the rest of our days. Like, if you've seen it go wrong, you're going to be so slow to agree to anything like that. Like, there will have been, I'd imagine, a safety person, a security person going in a meeting going, has anyone considered what might happen if it's a lovely day and these all get thrown on the pitch?
Yeah.
And again, if that's televised, that like you're actually into huge impact if you then have to stall a game and kind of clean all that stuff up, which is fascinating. I found something you said along the way really interesting, and it doesn't surprise me, but I guess I've never thought of it in those darker set of terms, where you said things like cinemas are your competition.
Yeah.
Like you don't think of Connacht Rugby as an organization, as an offering to be just in competition with the next rugby team or the next sport. Anywhere people can choose, I guess, to spend 2, 3, 4 hours of their day at a weekend, largely, this kind of competition for you guys. So you have to create, and it's much easier, I would argue, to control the experience in a cinema or to fully manage every detail. Whereas the challenge for someone like you, there are many, many more things can impact on what's ultimately seen as what you delivered for your guests.
Yeah. And that's it. I suppose that was a big thing in North America. It's sports and entertainment companies. It was Canuck Sports and Entertainment, which was the hockey team, and that really reinforced the fact for me. I suppose it's a known within the sports industry that we are in an entertainment industry. Like, our fans and people that come to our events, our customers are slightly different, but they, as they're so involved and they have an emotional attachment to our product. But it is a product at the end of the day. And it can be, it's tough to say that, because that can upset people, and it has upset people in the past. It's identify that, but and I rarely would think of it as I'm not going to the shop to buy a match. I can't compare it to Tesco, but it is. I can compare it to a restaurant, and I can't compare it to cinema or just any other activity that people would do with their downtime. Again, there's that emotional draw and that emotional attachment, but it is about creating an environment where people want to come, they feel welcomed, and they'll come back to.
I would also say, and again, I'm speaking out of school, but in my own experience, I would think the fact that it's sport and it's that emotion and it's parochial and it's our local team and I'll see that player at mass tomorrow or in the pub tomorrow, whatever. There can be so much more pressure on to deliver then and to deliver an experience. And I know you personally, but I think in a business perspective, you'd also feel the same. Like, you'll feel like you've let actual neighbors, actual people down if it doesn't go well. And I think that's a great way to keep you on your toes.
Now,
you can bring the bad days too. But like, I know you've had challenges, and we've all had challenges where it may be 100% outside of your control, but ultimately, as you said, it rests on you, it rests on the organization. If it didn't live up to a standard, you're not going to get the opportunity to explain to 9, 10, 12,000 fans the little thing that caused the problem and how it was kind of outside of your control. They just walked away going, that wasn't the best experience, was it?
And we'll actually, that's in the last couple of slides there, just a piece on that about controlling the controllables, because it's a theme that comes up, and I'll speak about it later on, but it's just so important to understand what you have control over. When we look at fan feedback documents, I always ask for the results and the weather to be put up on top of the feedback document, because if you lose a match, you're going to have more negative feedback. That's a given. It's always nicer to go into the office on the Monday morning after a win than it is after a loss. That's everywhere I've worked. But if there's been bad weather as well, people have experienced that. But generally, the weather doesn't seem to affect the fans that we have, because people just love supporting the Connacht Rugby, and we're delighted to have them there.
I'm watching questions coming in here, and I think what we really should do is just let you get back to finishing the presentation, and then we'll jump back to, we've covered a lot of them. We can jump back to those questions again. I think if we keep going this way, we'll stay forever doing questions. So finish up there, we can come back to stuff.
Yeah, and then thanks, Mark. So then, just guys, the final part of this is just welcoming feedback, and that's coordinating and action and constructive feedback. We've touched on it there, and it's come up, I suppose, just in conversation with Mark. It's just to be the person that goes out. You know, you run an event and you plan it from start, beginning to end, and then you put it on, and then you want to hear from people. You want to, there'll always be the emails coming in, the phone calls after the event. So you want to be the person that puts them in place, that actions them, and get solutions for them. There's some other key parts of that. So just reinforcing it, it's planning, execution, and in my mind, it's review. And that review step is just important as anything that's gone before it, and even the event itself. It's so important to review the event, review it with key stakeholders that put the event on, spend time with them, and then learn from it and get their ideas and see what you can do better the next time you have it. What we do at Connacht and other events is it's a very simple form. It can't be any simpler. I send out an email with an attachment, and the attachment has 4 words: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we look at what's worked well, what hasn't, what we can do better, and this one-offs that we just can't allow to happen again. Strengths, we talked about it, but it's so important to extenuate the positives. If there are positives, ensure that they're looked at, rewarded for whoever's put them in place, and then that they're emphasized for the next match. Weaknesses, I think, there'll always be areas that need addressing, and I think it's important that you as the event manager, you take control over these and you lead the response to these, and then you get back to the people who raise the weaknesses. Someone has taken the time out to raise something with you, you need to go back to them to ensure that either, yes, you've actioned it and it's fixed for the next event, or no, you haven't, and tell them the reason why it hasn't been actioned or resolved. Then we go on to opportunities. So I always like to think that opportunities are something you can give to someone else to delegate. Generally, it's easier for people to kind of take responsibility for this if they're independent from yourself. You'll have enough on your plate, trust me, from dealing with the weaknesses, if there's that many. But allowing other people to take control over something, it gives them an opportunity to, and gives them that ownership to make something better for the next time. And then threats, then generally this is the lowest column, but it's important that if there are any threats that come up, that they're identified. It can only be one-off. It can never happen again, and that it's resolved and into the next match. So in my head, it's kind of weaknesses. I'll always look to take them on board. Opportunities to kind of delegate out across the team members. If there's a concessionary or someone else, I'll let them take it on. And then strengths, I always like to get back to people with the positives that we've seen. And then I suppose just on the SWOT analysis, that goes out to all external and internal stakeholders. But and it's important that you include everyone in that. So we include people from local authorities, Gardaí. We share our stadiums. We share with the people who are on the other side of our stadium, all staff and volunteers, security. I send it to everyone because I want to hear everyone's opinion and what they think went well and what didn't. I think that's really important. I think when you're in this role, you have to be hungry for feedback. You have to be hungry to learn what's worked and what hasn't worked at your event, and to see if you can make it better for the next time. People will always come to you with something, but if you can go to them and ask them for their input first, then that's going to be successful, and that's going to show that you care about it. Fan feedback is something, again, and I can't take credit for this because this isn't from myself that it happens, but we have some great colleagues at Connacht that do look after our fans in fan services department, and they listen to our fans via surveys. They take notes at matches, and they follow up with fans. They bring the feedback into us, and we can action this within our department, and we can put in resolutions for them if needs be. We can solve any issues that come up. Sometimes, guys, we can't. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you'll have this at your own venue. You'll run into issues that just can't be resolved, and that's just what it is, unfortunately. But it's important that you speak to those people as well, that you come back to them and you let them know, yeah, I mean, we'd like to be able to change that, but unfortunately we can't at that stage. Look for a solution, but sometimes, guys, there's not one there. So don't fret on that either. And then finally, I say just follow up with fans. It's really important that we spoke about it at the top of the show there with Tone Park. they got out, they contacted everyone that contacted them, and they reached out to them and said, look, we can make things better for the future, and they let people know that that was going to be happening. I've just done the side, I couldn't find the right image I wanted to use in this, but this is a loop. This is continuous. You always want to be looking to do this. You always want to be chatting to your fans, your guests. You want to be actioning the feedback, and you want to follow up with them and make sure that they're happy and they're coming back next time to a better experience. I'm going to chat just briefly here on this one. This is stadium accreditation. This was an issue that we kept seeing feedback coming back from at the Caps when we was there, and it was just this weird thing where people getting in places where they shouldn't be getting in, and there was the security were having a real great difficulty in kind of implementing the system that it was, and then we just had people who weren't able to get into places that should have been getting in. So we really stripped it back. We heard the feedback from security. They were saying it wasn't a workable system. So we just looked at it, and with them, side by side, we reviewed the whole accreditation system in the off season, and we were able to put in place, we went from having, I think, 9 or 10 accreditation zones to having 4 zones, and really clear passes, images that were really easy to use, that people could just see at a blink of an eye. Honestly, just a quick look at if someone had the right pass to get into the right area. So, we were getting the feedback that the thing wasn't working, that security weren't letting me into places, that this is someone else's fault. We looked at the root cause of that, and we acknowledged that there was an issue, and we were able to put it in, a fix and a remedy for it. And so, that allowed us, taking on that feedback, allowed us to put in something that worked, made it a much more efficient system. I'm pretty sure the system is actually still being used that we created at that time. And I definitely know it was something very similar that was used at the Sevens tournament that was there. So it was such a good alternative to what was already in place. Security were happy to have it and work with it. Actions for you guys, small things, but just welcome feedback. And as I say, be hungry for it. Go out there, ask for it, want to get it from everyone. People will be approaching you with lots of questions and lots of thoughts and calls and all the rest of it. But provide that sounding board and understand that you need to be able to, to get back to them as well. Highlight the positives. We touched on it with the volunteers and our staff earlier, but always look at the strengths, and it's important to have them as much as is weaknesses. Action and follow-up, small things, I've said it multiple times, but it really is important that if you resolve something, that you follow up with people and that you've been able to fix it for them. If you haven't been able to fix it, that's okay too, but let them know, And then finally, it's control of controllables. There are things that we cannot change. There are nuances and parts of our stadiums or venues that we are not able to fix or address. That's okay. We can't fix it. That's not something we can do for people. But just an acknowledgement to that. Don't waste your time on something that you can't fix. Just put your time into being able to provide better experience for your fans through ways you can do it. And I would encourage everyone to look for value in what you do in your fan experience. Find the most valuable way to increase the fan experience for people and ensure they're getting the most from it. Guys, that is me. I just want to thank you for your time. I'm just really impressed. I know it's a time where we all should be busy. We all should be out there in grass and greenfield sites. We should be in venues across the country, across the world, talking to all you guys. But it's really great to see so many people actively seeking to improve what they're doing when they can't get out into the fields. So well done on that, and fair play to you all. Hope this was useful. And definitely love to hear from everyone. My LinkedIn stuff is there. If you want to give us a shout afterwards, I'd really appreciate your feedback on this, and hopefully I can make it a bit better for the next time as well. Any questions, Marky?
Yeah, I was just going to say you're practicing what you preach with the feedback thing. So I'm going to put that poll live, which Fergal asked me to do. So don't be thinking I'm having to go with him here, but he's actually, because of that consistent loop he's talking about there, he's keen to find out what people thought of the presentation. So there is the poll. Feel free to tell us. There's some great questions coming in that I'm sitting here going, I want to ask him. There's a good one there. Who do you feel is ultimately responsible for the spectator experience? Do you feel fans themselves have a partial responsibility in creating their own positive experiences?
Definitely. That's true. Well, you have to create an environment for fans to be able to have a good time, And there is a responsibility on the fans. I think in the guest charter, that's what you would include in there. What fans need to be doing when they come to an event. But I think at the end of it, it's an environment that you create yourself, and your organization, your event is creating So by having a positive place for people to come to, and that starts at the gates with a smile, then that's what's going to create a positive culture within. I think I'll never shirk personal responsibility. I think everyone has an opportunity and a responsibility to be responsible for their own actions and the way they act. But I think providing an environment for them to do that in is what we do.
Yeah, I think Isla came in with that question, and I think the simple answer to who do you feel is ultimately responsible, the likes of you will always take that on. But yes, of course, the spectators they can ruin it for themselves, or they can make it for themselves in a lot of respects. Control those controllables, and see what happens after that. You mentioned the fan charter again, and a couple of things came in on that.
Yeah.
Is that the type of thing? I know you guys are developing one at Connacht. We don't have it yet, but in where you've seen that operate, is that the type of thing then that's communicated to the fans very clearly? And look, this is our arrangement with you guys. This is what we say we'll do. Help us live up to it. Pull us up if we're not. That's the type of thing that's really communicated externally, is it?
Yeah. And like you look at Liverpool, they have it on their website. You look at any of the Premiership teams, it's something that's there and available for fans to see and get an understanding of what And again, it talks about responsibility of fans and then responsibility of the people that are putting in place and putting the environment in place for fans.
Here's one that may be me putting you on the spot, but it's a genuine question.
Yeah.
It's from Louise. I think I know Louise. I think she's involved in basketball is her thing. She says we often have games back to back, and so it's difficult to get pre-game fan experience, as we often only have 30 minutes between games. Have you any ideas around the fan experience on A, a low budget, and B, also a very limited space in an arena when you're doing those back-to-back type of things?
Yeah, and I suppose, the space I go immediately for is the court, but obviously, teams are going to be going out there warming up and all the rest. Louise, I'd look to the NBA. I've just spent, 10 hours of my life watching a documentary on Michael Jordan, and I think it's the greatest thing I've ever watched. But and just to prove that point, this arrived today. Because
good man.
Yeah, and that's from my partner we give. But I think it's amazing. Look to someone that does it amazingly well, and the NBA do it. But look to other areas and events that have short turnaround times. It may not be what your event is, but you can bring something to it. And the likes of buskers, I think something that you've lots of eyes on the court. So if you could get some type of performers in, I don't know what would best, because I don't know what your audience actually looks for. But just maybe have a chat with the audience, look to other leagues and look to other teams that do something really well, and then get them in. I agree, it's a tight turnaround, but you do want to be able to provide something for your fans.
Yeah, and it sounds like possibly a trite answer, Louise, and you know me, I'm not trying to give you one, but I would say just try some things, and I'm sure you guys have. Maybe you see something that works, maybe you see something that doesn't, but I can get caught with this a lot of the time, and I'm kind of, as I grow and I grow older, I'm learning to not be this way as much, but I often want to feel like I have the perfect solution to something and I have something planned 100%, and sometimes you just, you can't get there. Sometimes you need to trial a few things, knowing that it may or may not work, but it's part of your bigger picture, and that you'll get to an answer. Linda has a good question here, which is a fair point. She says, how do you approach the challenge of communicating your venue ethos and the way you want to approach things to staff and volunteers who are usually casual staff and possibly don't quite see that bigger picture of what you're trying to create,
It's down to you, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, I suppose it's about recruitment. It's about creating that charter, and again, it goes back to it's something I said it, but it's about ownership and explaining to people that you're here doing a role for Connacht or for whoever it is, and that you need to be exemplary in that role that you do. And guys, I think coming into this, we're touching it. Temporary staff are probably only on site for 5 or 6 hours earlier, more than what fans are, and they're trying to have a good experience too. And you make sure that they live up to the standards. It's hard to get messaging across to those people, but what you do is if you create a charter and you have some quick bullet points and you've good accountability with the leads and concessions or leads in any of the temporary staff areas, then you know that you'll be getting the best of it. Guys, it won't always be perfect, but it's about follow-up, and it's about working with people to get it better for the next time. I can share your frustration, but I think it's, you have to look at how you can make it better. And ownership, charters, small, concise event guidelines, they all work.
And I'd say, as you kind of alluded to during the presentation, this is always an ongoing thing. No one ever has this nailed.
No.
You're always looking to improve. You'll have a great year and you'll think things went really well. And 2 years later, you'll look back and go, we've changed this since, and aren't things much better now? Like, you're always improving that experience, which is the great thing about people who really take that seriously.
Yeah, I'll always seek out that improvement, guys. I think it's so worth it in the end, and it makes it better for you, people that work at the events, and then for your fans as well, for your guests.
This is it's an interesting one in here from Sarah, which is something we touched on with Ian in the stadium safety one as well. How do you plan and backfill any staff no-shows on match day? So volunteer drop-off can be 30% in exhibition and live events, which must be very difficult to manage in a stadium when you rely on very tight staffing numbers. So how do you guys deal with kind of that worry that people won't show?
I have to tell you guys, and like we are so lucky at Connacht Rugby. Our stewards, our volunteers are some of the best supporters of the organisation that you'll ever meet, and these, like, they're such a great group. They want to support Connacht, and it's they want to be at a match every day. And so we're really lucky in that regard that those people, we don't have that issue too much. Certainly the bars and restaurants may have that issue, but again, there's ownership there on the person and the person running that bar or that restaurant, that someone hasn't shown up for work, and that's how they treat their job. So yeah, it can happen. And I'm generally, I suppose, in previous lives, I probably wasn't overly forgiven if someone was working with us but didn't show. But I know now, I've kind of matured a bit of my thinking, that sometimes things do come up, and it can be tricky to get everything all coordinated at once. So I kind of I'm a nicer guy, I think.
Well, it comes with maturity and life learning and all of that kind of stuff. Louise has just come back there on that quick turnaround thing. She says that the fan feedback bit is probably her takeaway from this. And again, Louise, maybe it's easier said than done, but a bit like what and Connacht is a good example for that, not just because Fergal's here, but when you think of something we can say now, and these words will come out my mouth, but this is genius in some respects, something as simple as the Handsome Burger thing. So if there's a burger outlet in the local city that people really love and are really into, like, to bring them and have them on match day, to let that be the food, like, that's just, it's really sensible and really logical. But now think about all the gigs you've gone to, all the stadiums you go to, where it's the same stuff in there, and clearly, and there's loads of reasons why it mightn't happen. It's not this simple. But for you guys to go and get Handsome Burger to be in there, it's just another thing that builds on that fan experience, gives people what they want. So I think, Louise, if you can talk to them. Now, here's the thing. We all know, you ask people for opinions on stuff, you can get such a wide range that there's work to distill it down and find the nuggets within there that might appeal to the masses. Yep. But if you can't talk to them and try and get them to tell you what they'd like, some of it will be mental, some of it will be realistic though, but what you'll probably see are themes. You might see a theme that says they'd like some easy listening music, or you might see a theme that says they'd like a free throw competition or something. You'll see something there that will have you going, right, that's enough for me to have a run at. Try this for the next game and we'll see, does it work?
Big time. Completely agree with you there, Mark. I can't even take credit. I'd be wanted if I did, but I can't take credit for Handsome Burger. That was someone else on the team that done it. But it just, again, because we have that mantra at Connacht to provide a really good experience for our fans across the organisation, it was something that was just, we looked at it and brought in. And just, again, I think Mark has hidden it, but like, it's key areas that are key to locality and stuff that people enjoy doing outside of your events. Incorporate that into your events as much as possible. You're on mute there, Mary.
Yeah, turn my microphone back on now that I'm done with the well, she's still here, but Jill has asked, and just you guys don't have that guest charter, that fan charter yet, so Jill has asked, could you share it? But I mean, like you said, the Premier League teams, the likes of Liverpool, they all have them up. Yeah. They're on the website. So Jill, you can probably go and grab a good few of them and have a look at what it is. I think the key to that, and that's why I asked, is if you're going to have that guest or fan charter, to really do it right, you need to communicate it. People need to know. You need to know what you're aiming for. And like Fergal will probably tell you, if people know what you're aiming for and they see the effort to reach it, you're not held to account as stringently as you might otherwise be. People understand things are processes and it'll take a while to get there, but they can see improvement if they know where you're heading. I think they're much more likely to cut you a bit of slack when you need it and to work with you and go, look, the lads do really well most days. Something went a little wrong today, but I know what they do better a lot of the time, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Just a small point on that. If you put in something new, guys, I know you always build it in, expect some regression initially. Things aren't going to fly the minute that they go in the first time. There will be, people getting used to the new way of doing things and all of that. There may be some regression in how something.
Yeah.
But give it time. If it's completely wrong, that's okay. But change it immediately. But give something time. Don't make it just one event or 1 hour before you make up your mind on something.
Yeah, things need time to breathe and they need time to bed in. I was thinking while you were finishing the last section of the slides there, when I think it was the first year of my master's over in Manchester, we went to Manchester Arena. We did a lot of kind of visits and work in the arena there. And we met with James Allen, and we used to go over for a week in September, and the rest of the Masters is distance learning. But so we'd spend a few days over there. And I remember one year, I think it was year one, I changed my flights to come back because I wanted to see something in action that James had just kind of introduced to the venue, and swore blind to me it would work, and it works really well. And it comes back to what we were saying earlier on. I needed to see it. I couldn't understand. So, and you'll be more familiar with this on the American side of things. So for the concessions outside the arena, most of them had, the metal bars, the barriers just delineating the queues. And James had spent a lot of time, I believe, working over in North America, and he brought back this idea that he felt you could get rid of those barriers because for evacuations, for lots of reasons, they are an impediment to movement. So he really felt you could get rid of them, and all you needed to do, he thought, was replace them with triangles painted on the floor, which would guide people in how they should queue and where they should queue. And I was kind of looking at him going, everything I've ever seen about crowds in the UK and Ireland makes me think this probably can't really work. But he was like, I swear to God it works. You need to see it in action. So I stayed and I went to a gig. I think it was Florence and the Machine to watch this. And not that I saw much of her because I was watching this bloody queuing situation. But it was fascinating because it worked and it didn't work. The bars were gone and there were just triangles on the ground. Now, I think I have this the right way around. The tip of the triangle was what you were supposed to follow, and you would be brought straight to a till. That was right in line with a till. But what happened was English people just did it the opposite way. So they were starting at the tip and they were working to the broader end of the triangle. So all that happened was the queues were good, they were managed, they were just slightly to the left of where they were planned to be. So people were actually landing at the counter, say, with a till on their right, as opposed to being right in front of them. But it was still beautifully managed. It worked.
Yeah.
People had picked up how they used the signage on the floor the wrong way, but it still worked. And I think James could be on here, someone from Manchester could be on here and tell me differently. I think they just left it then because it works. There's no need to re-educate people and go, no, we wanted you to do it this way. It worked. And the people were just following each other. And the bars, the physical metal bars were gone, which was James' thing. He wanted to get rid of those in case there was, ever a need that they'd need to evacuate and that those things would be in the way. So sometimes things, and like I genuinely stayed to see that work because I couldn't, it didn't make sense to me. And sometimes you have to try things. And James, like he's running a multi-million-pound venue, whatever, like if that didn't work, he'd try something else. You can't leave it, as we said earlier, you can't be proud and go, no, I've come up with this. You give it time. And if it's not working, you have to know when to knock it on the head and try something else. But if it works, just not exactly as you designed it, maybe then it still works. And it did for them.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to the point that as a safety person, I always like to make, which is if you involve people on the safety end and who know crowds and stuff earlier in the process, what we always try to do, and you've mentioned the word design a lot of times with the fan experience, we always try and design out problems. So if we're working with you early, we're trying to see these things come up and help you design them out. So on the day, no one feels like they're being managed because you don't have to pop a security person there to send them left instead of right, or you don't have to put a barrier there. We're always trying to design out problems so people don't feel like they're being managed or controlled in an environment. And I think there's an awful lot of thinking and work that goes in on your side and on our side and everyone's side to try and make people have the best experience they can have. It doesn't always go seamlessly, but that's part of the game. Sometimes you see something, you need to fix it.
That's being hungry for improvement, and that's, I think, none of it's perfect in anything we do, but like it's being that ethos of wanting to be better.
Isla has asked, what do you see as the future for the spectator experience? Do you think experience creation will be altered after COVID-19?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It
can't not be, can it?
Yeah, and I'm hesitant to speculate on anything that this could look like in terms of the future, because I think it's greatly impacted, but we don't know yet. Like, last week it could have been that we might be 2 meters apart at events. It could be 1 meter this week. We don't know. We spoke about this briefly yesterday, Mark. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's pin the tail on the donkey at this stage. We just don't know what we're looking at, and so we have to wait and see. I'm afraid, and that's not to shirk responsibility. I feel like I'm giving you a nothing answer, but it's just I don't know. I really don't know.
No, but it's the truth, as you and I have discussed, and I've discussed with lots of other people. There are experts in COVID-19, but they're not in the events world.
No.
So from us, the like of what you do, what we do, we're doing things as we need to do them. We're coming up with policies and procedures, knowing that they could be changing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Isla, thank you for mentioning COVID-19, because you've reminded me that we've just announced that live panel webinar. I just popped it into the offer section there if anyone wants to register. But that's literally going to deal with, because people have asked us to do this, just deal with COVID-19. And there's 4 of us going to put our heads on a block and try and give you something you can work with, try and see how things are going to work out. Like the 1 meter, the 2 meters, the social distancing, whether you have to enforce it or not, drive-in events, like there's so much going on that it's developing all the time. So what I wanted to do was get other people to also put their head in the block. So there'll be 4 of us on that particular webinar, and that's just about COVID-19. So hopefully we can come up with a few things. I'm just scanning to see, was there other things for questions here? Nathan, what were some of the things you did? Oh, that's about the oxygen microphone man thing. What were some of the things you did rather than just talk to them? Was actually, sorry, you say talk at them, and that's probably your point, Nate, I'd imagine, is that what I did, the God mic was actually in some bushes. So what I did do was I got a new cable brought over, which gave me a lot of length on the cable, so I could come out of the bushes, so people could physically see me, and then we could interact better. I mean, we just, like, as people walked by, as people interacted with me, we just had the crack. We were slagging people. We were asking people what acts they were going to see. It was literally just, and this sounds really stupid, it was just interaction on any level. If people shouted abuse at me, I abused them back. If they told me what acts they were into, we talk about those acts or whatever. It was literally conversation. It was weird for people the other side of the site, I'd imagine, because they're hearing one side of a conversation, and it's just me. But the point was, I think that any level of interaction was helping put smiles on faces while they were all queuing. And look, people came away thinking that lad's an awful idiot. Other people thought it was good. Other people fully understood what was being done there, which was them going, listen, you can try and distract me with your jokes all you want, bald man, but we're late going in and I want to be in there. So, like, all of that is part of it. But it worked quite well. We've seen examples. When I worked at the Olympics, we had one guy, I shit you not, his name was Happy. And he was the happiest person I've ever met. And yeah, he was amazing. And there's videos of him on YouTube from, where is it? Eton Dorney is the site we were on for the Olympics. But we realized what his strengths were. He was up on a high, like a lifeguard chair. He had a megaphone, and he was having so much fun with people as they came in and as they went. And as someone said in the chat there, and we've mentioned as well, that first experience and last experience, which is why, having worked security for a long time in my life, we were always quite conscious. We're generally in a nightclub, the first experience and the last experience. So you're trying to make sure it's positive. So the likes of Happy having fun with people as they walk out or as they come in was their lasting impression a lot of days. The other thing I would say about the Olympics as such was the cops really got into it as well. And like, we had armed cops on the way out who were high-fiving people and all of that kind of thing, which is what they were instructed to do by their bosses. This was a real, we had to have the presence there. You needed the armed cops. But until they needed to do something properly with the guns, which they didn't, thank God, they were there to make people appreciate the day, take pictures with them. They're one of them described it to me as their orders those days were nearly the opposite of other days. Like they were told, look, your guest experience, your fan experience people. And if you see something that means you're suddenly the cop, go do it. But generally, you want people being happy going in and happy going out, and that's a lot of what it comes down to. And that the cops, I think, is a good example of how everyone contributes to that. Whether it's the ticket takers, the stewards. One thing I did want to do, and I always ask people who run stadiums and run matches, things like this. So, and I've been to games in Connacht, so I've seen the stewards, and you say that your no-show rate will be quite low and all that. Do you find that those stewards who are really parochial, they're bought in, they love Connacht, they really want to be there, are they watching the match? Or are they doing what you want them to do? Or do you build it so they can do both? How does that work?
They have an ability to do both. And,
right.
And that's a real positive for us, and that's something that we always want to keep going. I think that, again, I'll just speak of how good this group of people are. They're passionate Connacht fans, and they'd be nearly season ticket holders if they weren't there. And they're just really good. They understand, kind of going back to Happy and going back to the guys who worked at the Olympics. They understand the mood of the fans. They've made acquaintances throughout the ground. They have people who come to their sections every match. Their job is a safety role, certainly, and that's number one. And it's providing a really good environment for people to be in and support Connacht Rugby. And they provide that by doing what they do. And it's a lot of them will watch the match and stuff, but that's okay. Their job is looking after the people around them. Some of them don't get that opportunity, and they're really good servants of Connacht. They go in and they know that they're going to be busy for an hour or two, but they want to be able to support Connacht Rugby in that way that they can. And I think that's incredible for us.
I think that's one of my takeaways now from today. And again, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, because we all know people who run big events and stadiums, and they approach things differently and everything. But for you as the operations director there, and the responsibility you would have on your shoulders for delivery, to be saying, they watch the match and that's okay. They know what their first role is, and if it comes to it and they have to jump in and do something on a safety side, that's what they're there for. But part of the reason they're there, that you recognize and your team recognizes, is that they're mad Connacht fans and they want to watch the game. So as long as they can balance that, and you're getting what you need from a role perspective from them, it's beautiful to be able to say, look, they're really good. They get to watch the game. We don't find them wanting when they need to do what we need them to do, and that works for everyone. I mean, that's powerful to have, I think, with a group of volunteers and stewards.
I just can't speak highly enough. The chief steward we have is Stephen Hosty, and he's just this absolute gentleman. But he looks after the whole stewarding group for us. He's excellent, and just he leads it really from the top, and it's great that they have that leader inside it with them. So it's excellent.
Cool. We might finish up now. I'm gonna watch in case any more questions jump in, but I have one that someone sent me privately that I wanted to put to you. And it comes down to the guest experience. And you talked about Spurs and how early people go into that stadium and everything. And the question here is from a business perspective, is the role or the goal even for a stadium manager and ops director like yourself, is it about having people on site for as long as you can and maximizing that revenue, maximizing their experience? Is it kind of, let's get them here, which is the holy grail for a lot of stadiums? They can't figure out how to do it. But is that it? Is the holy grail to try and have them on site, enjoying what you can control for them, having them spend money, all those knock-on effects? That the longer we can have them here, the better it is for everyone from a business perspective. Is that kind of one of the golden rules? Yeah,
and I hate to make a comparison like this, but it was O'Leary who said that his planes are losing money anytime they're on the ground.
Yeah, I get you.
And if a stadium is lying dormant, it's not generating revenue as it can without partnerships and sponsorship agreements and all the rest. But I think for us as stadium managers, it's going into stadium revenues, how to generate the most that we can. I think it's certainly part of it. It would be. It's not. It really would. You want fans in there, and you want them spending money. I suppose people will be spending money regardless if they're coming to matches. Why shouldn't it be with you? And you look at the entertainment districts that they're creating in North America now, and you have to understand that they're massive event districts created around stadiums to hold fans in and to keep revenue in those areas. I can say it's kind of second to us. I think we just want to provide an amazing experience for fans right now, but like in the future that may change. And it's
Yeah.
what would I think every stadium looks at, probably have 14 or 15 event days, smaller stadiums a year in terms of matches. What are the other 50 days a year? And where they want to look at making revenue and all the rest of it. Is that fair enough, Rick?
I think no, 100%. I was just thinking, without sounding mean to you, I think with the stadium development and everything, I think I would imagine, and you'll know better, so you don't have to answer this. I would imagine that you might find you're under a different type of pressure, maybe, I guess, when you have a brand spanking new stadium and you still only have your 15 event days or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line people realize with sports businesses, which is what Connacht is and other, these things are inextricably linked. The money you make from selling burgers that comes back into the coffers, buys good players, improves those winning days. It's all interlinked. So it's about the balance between people never feeling like they're being commercially exploited, but people know that money being spent, is part of the club being successful, and that's all part of it. If you don't have money being spent on site, you don't have money for players or training facilities and whatever. So that has to be a part of it.
More than that, Mark, you don't have money to give to clubs in the region to build their facilities. I mean, you look to the GAA and they have one of the biggest, I suppose they have the biggest stadium in the country. They have that makes massive amounts of money for them, but they pump it back into grassroots. And I think that's what all sports clubs have, and that's their ability.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a very succinct point you make that not a lot of people think about. We think of massive stadiums and we think, they're being used for concerts during the summer and all this kind of thing. But more often than not, stadiums exist for maybe one club. Some might have two in there. I know you ground share with another group, but you are looking at maybe 13, somewhere between 10 and 20 game days, depending on your sport, a year. So it makes perfect sense. Anyone who's involved in business, you have to try and maximize the revenue on those days, whether that's putting in extra seating or, making sure the queues run smoothly so people get beer and burgers quicker. This is all part of it.
Yeah.
I'm stalling slightly because there's a lady trying to fire me a question that has disappeared out of the chat just because there's been so much chat. So I'm waiting. Roisin, send me on that question, and if it comes in really quickly, I'll ask him. I'm thinking one of the things that has always struck me about Connacht and some other clubs, and I'd say Munster Rugby do this. I'm a season ticket holder down there, so I see that they do this quite well too, is genuinely that involvement in community, that local community feel that bubbles up on match days and before match days. I mean, I think that has to be genuine. It makes sense for business, but it has to be genuine, otherwise it doesn't really work. So even you saying that revenue coming in, more importantly, it goes back to grassroots and it goes out to club, and that builds the next generation of fans and players and everything. I mean, that is key, because unless you're investing there, I mean, where's your burger and drink money going and being more value if it's not going to ensuring the longevity of the club and the business?
Look at Jack Herty. I mean, he's an absolutely great player, great ambassador for Connacht. He started off in Buccaneers and Athlone. He went up through the club there in the school there, and played for Connacht, and then he went on to represent Ireland in the World Cup. And Jack, outside of being a great guy, great player, he's got a great head in him, and he's the type of person you're proud to say it comes from your province. I'm proud to say that Connacht have helped achieve the goals that he set out for himself. He done a book review with us recently. He turned the ship around, and it was really excellent. He shared his thoughts in the book, and another great book for people is turn your ship around. Just to be a library by the end of it, guys. But there's so much out there.
Actually, you just remind me. I'm going to put your presentation and that. I think my fat fingers just deleted the book, the reading list, but I'll send it out in the email for everyone. One of the things when you said Buccaneers in that loan there, you broke my heart a little bit. I remember back when I was growing up in Ballinasloe, Buccaneers was Ballinasloe at loan.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't long after I left for college that it really became an at-loan thing. But again, another great rugby club. Roisin has come in with that question, which I now remember. Apologies, Roisin, it disappeared off the screen on me. She's wondering, have you seen any ticketing developments that have impressed you lately in terms of operations and attendee experience? I think ticketing, no more than like the accreditation problem you spoke about with the Whitecaps, like ticketing is always one of those ones that can feel like a pain point no matter what you do with it. So Roshan's wondering, have you spotted anything? Is there any tech out there? Is there anything you've seen that you think really does a good job on ticketing?
You could give a 4-hour webinar.
Just on
I think a massive takeaway from ticketing was that Amazon tried to get into the space. Amazon, the biggest company in the world nearly, and they removed themselves again from that space with Amazon tickets, and they didn't continue in it. It's a crazy game, and it's one that there's lots, always development, always innovation, always some great guys going into it. But yeah, there's lots I've seen, but it's not. I don't know. Some of the things are great, but again, technology is changing so quick. I mean, you're looking at the States where it's going to be going to bionic ticketing soon, and it will, you know.
Yeah.
I think what you need to look at if you're ticketing for an event, I really think that getting the tickets tied to purchases within the ground are really good. Being able to provide offers to people who come to your stadium early, you know, using their tickets to pay for stuff, creating an account for them. I think they're all really positive things. And most ticketing operators I've seen or dealt with are doing that type of stuff at the minute.
Cool. Roisin's just sent a message. She's from Portumna, so we definitely like Roisin. Yeah, I'm from Ballinasloe, Roisin. I just left a long time ago. And because my mother does our accounts for the business, I'm based in Dublin. So she's here all the time, so I'm rarely back in Galway. The last time I was in Galway actually may have been to visit you, Fergal, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Were you at the Toulouse match as well, subsequently? Yeah. You were at the Toulouse match as well, subsequently?
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't the best weather. That was Connacht weather. That was my stag. Anyway, we digress. That was my stag that weekend. My wedding should have been this weekend coming, but coronavirus paid to that.
You didn't get a stag, Mark.
Yeah, that's what the lads keep saying. We'll get another stag out of it at least.
Yeah.
Okay, Roshan, we've done that one. Thank you very much. There's no one else jumping in with a question. For me, Fergal, thank you very much. This has been really good. I think people seem to have got a lot out of it. I know Fergal, so when he says reach out to him at his LinkedIn if you want to, he means it. He's one of those guys, a bit like ourselves, who likes helping out, likes being able to help if we can. We'll always find 20 minutes, half an hour for a chat if we can be of use. So when he says that, I know he means it. So feel free, Louise maybe or whoever, to take him up on that if you want to pick his brain on stuff. Again, what works in Connacht Rugby may not work in your basketball association, but there are things we can all share and help each other with, and we're quite happy to do it. Oh, just before you go, what is your favourite experience while working for Connacht Rugby? And I haven't made that up. And actually, I'm extremely impressed because Oliver, who asked that question, has spelled Connacht the good old-fashioned way. Which I know isn't the way you guys spell it now. But he's wondering, what's been your best experience working with Connacht?
Securing qualification for the Champions Cup last season. Yeah, that was amazing, guys. And again, it goes back to, you know, just the team put in such an effort on the day. The event went smashingly well. And, you know, the fans at the end of the match reflected on what was an amazing day for the team. It was absolutely class. Like, I cannot tell you, working in sports is like, it's an experience you want to keep going back to and back to. It's just such an amazing opportunity. Like, you know, to hear the fans to be unified with the team, players, fans, staff, colleagues in that final moment when everyone has done everything that they can possibly do to get the team to win and to be at the top table in terms of European rugby for the next season, incredible achievement. And that's everyone bringing their A game every day, and that's what makes it.
I think that's a great point to finish on, because you made an extremely important point near the start of your session where you were saying that the team's performance and how the team does on the pitch, like, it's completely separate to the event and the day that you were in charge of delivering. But the greatest days are when the event goes really well, you guys have achieved what you want to achieve, and the team do it too. I mean, you and I, we know those feelings, like, and a lot of people on the webinar know what that feels like. When it goes great on the pitch and off it, they are 100% the days that keep you bought into this and love doing it for years more to come. And you've had some great days in Connacht in recent years. And I think the exciting time with the stadium coming and everything, it must be a really fun time to be where you are, having traveled the world and worked in various countries. to be there now at this time must be really exciting. So I am slightly jealous, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's class. I love it. Like it's amazing place to work, and it is a great community. It knows its position as a community leader as well within the west of Ireland. So I think that's a massive part of it. So
yeah. Okay. All right. I think we're going to leave it there. People are saying thank you. They have to rush off. Fergal, thank you very much. Much appreciated. My fat fingers did delete his reading list, so I can't make it available now. But if you were here, I will email it. You'll get it. Don't worry. And thank you all. We'll see you on Friday if you're here for Friday's one, guys.